What's going on, everyone? This is Erik with Full Man MMA, and today I am joined by UFC featherweight Nathaniel Wood. Nathaniel, how are things?
Things are all good here. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I'm happier now that I'm going up a weight class. Obviously, it's been a bit of a weight off my shoulders, and we're 12 days away now from fight night. So I'm eager to get in there and put on a performance for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Making your featherweight debut against Charles Rosa in London on July 23rd. You kind of talked about this in the past, but if you could tell us why the move up in weight.
If I'm honest with you, it just got to a point where as I'm getting older, I'm just walking around heavier and heavier. I've always been at bantamweight. I used to walk around at 61. I'd be at bantamweight. And over the years, I've just creeped up. And it's got to a point now where I'm like, this is starting to really take its toll on me. That last fight camp was a real sort of struggle. And the guy pulled out the day before. So, I kind of thought, do I need to be doing this? And I don't feel I do. We've got featherweights in our gym who I spar with and have absolutely zero problems with, whether they're heavier than me or not. And if I'm honest, mate, I just want to be active. I want to have ideally at least 4 fights a year. And at the moment, with the weight cuts that I was doing, I need like 12 weeks notice every time to make weight. And it's not really doable in a realistic, situation. So now, I can make weight probably on 5 weeks notice. Because don't get me wrong, I still have to cut weight. It's not easy, but it's a hell of a lot easier than bantamweight. And I think where I haven't been as active, because obviously of injuries, etc., I just feel like I'm a bit out of the rankings now, where it's like there's no kind of pathway. So, I was kind of staying in bantamweight because, I was the Cage Warriors world champ, signed with the UFC, was on a free fight win streak. Obviously got the loss to John Dodson. And now it's got to a point where it's like, I'm not going to be getting the fights that I would want at bantamweight just yet. I don't think so. Time for me to move up, be active and, earn some money and try and build a legacy.
Absolutely. How big do you get, like, outside of fights? Like, how much did you have to cut to get down to bantamweight?
So to cut down to bantamweight in pounds, I know you guys are in pounds more. If bantamweight is 135 pounds, I was probably 170 pounds. So 35 pounds, which is what? Kilos. I get a little bit confused. I think that's around what I was sort of walking around at, but in good shape. Do you know what I mean? It's not like when I get to the point when I'm like 25 pounds out, 30 pounds out, I'm pretty shredded. I don't know if you saw the video of me where I had all them veins on my last fight. I still had 7 kilos to cut. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, ideally I'd cut 3 kilos in welterweight. Well, where am I going to lose another 3-4 kilos from that? The only thing you're losing is muscle and you're just dying, man. Do you know what I mean? And bearing in mind, if I make the weight, I still got to fight the next day. And I believe in my skill set. Sometimes I feel like fighters who cut so much weight, maybe they're scared. Are you scared that your opponent's going to have a couple more kilos? So don't get me wrong, Charles Rosa is going to have a little couple of kilos on top of me. I don't care. I believe that my skill set's going to handle it absolutely fine. And if it doesn't, then, pat him on the back. Well done, mate. I'll move on to the next one. But yeah, if you think that I'm going to blame a couple of kilos for someone beating me, then, there's another thing coming.
Was this something that you've been planning to do and like thinking about for a while and just now was the right time to do it? Or was this a little more spontaneous?
No, 100%. The last few years, at the time I said to my manager, look, I'm not cutting down to bantamweight anymore unless it's a good fight. At the time I got offered Von Lee, who was a former UFC fighter, had that, then the Cage Warriors world champ. So I just kept staying in that bantamweight category. And obviously where I was being active, it wasn't too much of a problem because I was always kind of staying at a real light weight. But then, injuries happen, you start to balloon up. And where I'd been out, I think I think my body's matured because I've got exactly what I used to walk around at, all jotted down. And now I'm walking around so much heavier and probably leaner than I was before. So it's not like I've put on fat and, done a Paddy Pimblett. I've just, put on some muscle. And yeah, as I say, I spar with featherweights all the time and it's not a problem. So I don't really see why I need to keep killing myself to make bantamweight. It just becomes unenjoyable, I guess. But don't get me wrong, I haven't closed the door on bantamweight, because I'm going to get up in the rankings in featherweight, and then if there's a good fight at bantamweight for me, cool, I'll drop back down. But yeah, no, for now, 145 is my home, and that's where I'm going to stay for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the size discrepancy, but you mentioned you spar with featherweights, and it's a silly question anyway, because Alexander Volkanovski, the champion, is your height. So like, do you think that it's fair for people to be concerned about the size, or and how encouraging is it that the current champion is actually not too far off from your size right now?
Well, exactly. And I don't think height makes too much of a difference. It depends on the style. I actually fought a featherweight before on Bellator against Chase Morton, who was 6 foot, and walked through him, no problem. It was no issues whatsoever. So I guess, the times where you'd be more concerned, I guess, is if I get one of those real kind of, maybe the Russian wrestlers like the Habibs, maybe, who, having a couple extra kilos is going to make a big difference. Cool. I'll work with that. And at the moment, I'm strong, and I've still got weight to cut. So, I don't think Charles is really going to be much heavier than me, maybe a kilo or 2. And I've got a long reach for bantamweight. So, I think he's underestimating me, and I think he thinks that I'm going to walk in at 145 on fight night. Well, no, I'm going to put on a hell of a lot of weight come that night after.
It should be exciting to see you make your UFC featherweight debut after 2 years of rough luck with your fight bookings. I know we talked after your last fight at UFC London fell through. But what's this layoff been like for you mentally? Because it's not like you took this time off. You had, I believe, 3 or 4 fights booked that all fell apart, some of them very last minutes. What's that been like for you these last 2 years?
Boring. It has been very boring. Training without a fight date in mind and without an opponent, it just starts to, grate on you. And, I'm coming into my prime now, and this is the time where I want to be chasing gold. I want to be fighting the best people in the world while I'm at that, peak age. So yeah, I'm finally back in there. That last fight, it killed me when, fight week, I'm putting on the gloves, sizing up, getting my Venom kit, etc. And then the fight falls through. But, I guess this is the sport. This is the business we're in. So finally, I'm getting back in there. And I've got a game opponent, Charles Rosa, who, you watch his fights, he always brings it. So I'm looking forward to getting in there and, putting on a show for the crowd and in my hometown.
I was going to say, and what luck that you get to come back after the bad luck with the last London card. The UFC puts on another one and you are featured on it. When you found that out, how exciting was that for you that you'll be making after 2 years, your return in London after missing out last time?
Oh, buzzing. I reckon Dana said, look, Nath wasn't on the last one. Let's do another one. So that's what I'm going to say to myself anyway. But no, it was when that fight got cancelled, it was even more, gutting because it was London. It's my hometown. The UFC haven't been here for years. They only, when they do come here, usually come once a year. And I thought to myself, that's not going to be for at least another year now until the next one. But yeah, look, a couple months later and here we are. So yeah, I'm buzzing, and I'm grateful for the UFC for having me on and, giving us the platform to showcase our skills.
Well, and you were there in person at the London card. You got to watch the whole thing, so you know how special that crowd energy was. Just watching on TV, it was a completely different experience from especially being used to the Apex crowds and even a lot of the crowds here in the States. What do you think it is about the UK fans that make the cards there so much more electric in person?
Well, I definitely think because they don't come often. So when they do, everyone is hungry for it. They've been waiting years. So, but yeah, the UK crowd just always get behind their fighters, if it's not football or soccer. And yeah, when it comes to fighting, I think it's that English kind of, they love a fight. So, the boxing crowd's always unbelievable. And I think the UFC crowd do it even better. So, yeah, I think the UFC know how to put on a show as well. The music, the lights, everything, having Bruce Buffer in there, Dana White being there at the weigh-ins and stuff, I think it gets people excited. And yeah, I'm expecting it to be even louder this time.
Yeah, and I haven't asked you much about your opponent yet, Charles Rosa. Obviously, a veteran at featherweight. He's been in the UFC for a while now. You said in another interview that that was basically just the name that the UFC offered you for this fight. But did you have any kind of reaction to it? Like, did you follow his career up into this point? What are your thoughts on him as an opponent?
No, so the only reason I know the name is because Brad Pickett, my coach, used to train with him in ATT. My coach Ashley Grimshaw, my teammates Robert Whiteford, Mark Diacese, they also have trained with him. So, I think I've met him once before. I'm not sure if we spoke much, but I know he was doing a bit of sparring with Ashley and Brad and stuff when we was in America, I think, on one of the fight nights. I never really kind of kept up with his career, but I've got a good insight from his former teammates, and just from watching his fights. But as I always say, I'm never going to turn anyone down in the UFC. So name got offered. Who am I to say no?
Absolutely, especially on the London card. I would imagine you probably would have fought a welterweight to stay on this card. Is that right?
It would have been Francis Ngannou, but yeah, I definitely would have been accepted.
Do you think that, because I heard you in other interviews also talk about the relationship that you used to have with your coach, Brad Pickett. Do you think that benefits you at all? Maybe having like a little more knowledge about him and not just going in totally blind like you normally would?
Yeah, I guess so. And the fact that, my coaches have trained with him and they really like this fight for me, that's always a little bit of reassurance. They didn't go, that's a real tough fight. They're happy with it. They're like, yeah, cool, take that fight. But yeah, I'm not looking past him by any means. And, he's obviously a very game opponent and I've got nothing but respect for him as a fighter. But yeah, he's the name that's in front of me. So, I've got to get past him and then move on to the next one.
Especially with you moving up in weight, I was curious how you'd answer this question. How do you think that this fight looks between the two of you with the weight change in mind? Do you think that there's anything about your style that maybe you'll have some benefits that you didn't have in the past, maybe some things you can't rely on as much? Like, how do you think that looks bearing your weight and Charles Rosa in mind?
I've definitely got a hell of a lot stronger in the grappling department, not just in technique, but in, strength, I guess. And I think that Charles is going to come into this fight thinking, I'm going to be so much heavier than him. I'm just going to ragdoll him and, he can think that if he likes. But yeah, I'm not walking back in the fight at the weight that I'm weighing in. I still have to cut quite a bit of weight. So I'm pretty much thinking we're going to be evenly matched in regards to size come fight night. And, I think my speed is still there that I had at bantamweight. So, I think that's going to be a shock for him come fight night.
Absolutely. And I know after 2 years off, I'm sure you're going to want to be a little bit more active going forward. That was all out of your control, but in general, I'm assuming that's the goal. We don't know how this fight's going to go on the 23rd. If it's an absolute war, you might not have the freedom to do this, but I would imagine if all goes well that night in London, you're going to want to get in at least one more time this year, correct?
Yeah, I've seen that they're doing an Abu Dhabi card in October, which I done the Fight Island twice. So the fact that I've gone over there and done it with no crowd, it would be nice to do that with a crowd. And yeah, go and get some sun. So yeah, I'd like to be around that October time on Abu Dhabi potentially. But as you say, I won't look past this fight, get this one done, and then, talk to the matchmakers and see what we can do.
Well said. And I can't wait for your return. I know we're all really excited for it here at the channel. But before I let you go, Nathaniel, you've been so generous with your time. I want to give you the floor. Anything you wanted to promote or shout out, the time is yours.
Oh, thank you. So I just want to say thank you to my sponsors, Puzzle Funding, one of my sponsors, AJ Wakeford. I've got so many that I'm probably going to forget someone, but Scramble, thank you everyone for your ongoing support. Vigorate, it's a premium shower gel brand that my osteopath is running, and I highly recommend everyone look it up. The Paul Strength Roofing Company, they've got a big charity event coming up. So, I'm glad to be a part of that. And yeah, just thank you yourself, everyone that's, tuning in come fight night. And I hope I put on a show for you.
Awesome. Can't wait to see it. July 23rd in London against Charles Rosa, UFC featherweight debut for Nathaniel Wood. Nathaniel, thank you again for the time.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video. If you like our content, be sure to subscribe to Full Man MMA. And while you're at it, make sure to hit the bell icon as well so you never miss an update from us.